But right now, in case you missed it in 2022, we're going to dive on in and just kind of walk through some of the special things that were shared with us. So we started off the year last year with fingers crossed for a good year. And in January, we had the folks from National Occupational Competency Testing Institute, also known as NOCTI, come and join us. So Randy Van Hermert and Heidi Spies joined us. And in case you're not aware of it, NOCTI does these digital badges, these certifications, and like all sorts of industry verticals. So let's say you're a phlebotomist and you take blood, right? And you want to move up within the job careers, you might want to do apheresis donation or something. So you go through the training on that, and then you get a badge for that. And then you want to do another type of donation. So it is a recognized leader since 1986. Providing all sorts of different types of certification and industry level credentials. And they worked with us to help us create a CTE level credential so that they were able to help us identify what the criteria would be for every one of our courses, both the project discovery and the chief life skills, and help put all the pieces together. So this is really a cutting edge kind of thing. Like I said, the way the curriculum began in 1980 is not the way it looks now. Now we're able to deliver these digital badges with the help of the NOCTI folk. And this is what the student experience feels like. So the student goes through the material, the teacher's working with them, the student demonstrates necessary competencies and demonstrates that they are proficient in those categories, let's say working through the greenhouse, right, which is one of our adapted titles. The teacher will go ahead and put them on into the system. It's an online tool. We'll show that in a second. And then the student will get a congratulatory email, and they get this digital badge that they could use to share with employers just what they're able to do, or I should say with prospective employers when they go for a job interview. And what's really neat about it, I was talking with some educators in Colorado, and I said, so what do you do with your badges? And they said, we have kids set up a LinkedIn account. I was like, oh, brilliant, of course. And these badges will feed right into a LinkedIn account. So, or they'll print right out on a sheet of paper so you can walk right in with it as well. Michelle, you said a lot of people these days have been getting quite interested in this.
Oh yeah, this is like one of the hot new topics now, are these micro credentials or these digital credentials, just because I mean, everything is digital nowadays, as you know, or increasingly digital. And it's just such a great way to communicate this skill set to people in an easy way, a quick delivery. So you can go on your LinkedIn page and you can click on something, or you can email something or share it on social media and stuff. And it's just, all of the stuff for our digital badges, all the activities and stuff that the students have to master to earn one of them are all taken from nationally validated business and industry sources, so knowing that you have mastered these skills, these marketable skills that employers are looking at, and you have an easy way to share that with them is highly valuable. And it's particularly good for students who maybe are taking an alternate path and need some sort of credential to show for their work and stuff. So it's just really good on opening doors for these students, helping them articulate their skills, helping them communicate them with prospective employers. It's just a great thing. Very, very popular, a lot of interest in this area for sure.
And it's really for all the students. I mean, even when I look at the ones that are here on this page, I mean, construction trades advanced is one of our job skills, and it's a tough course, right? That's a higher level course. But down here we have filing, the adapted version, and the grocery clerking, and all of the jobs, and for all the different levels. So whether you have a student who's very high functioning, or student who's a little bit more severe and profoundly impaired, they can all get a digital badge showing their level and being able to show those, I love the word you use, marketable skills, that
Mhm.
these are job worthy skills. So very cool. That was what we talked about in January. And like I said before, if that's an interest to you, you could go back to our archives and look at the whole webinar from January of 2022, or you could find our way to do a private tour with Michelle and team, and then they would walk you through it hands-on.
Yes.
So that was January. And in February, we were visited by folks from Monrovia Unified School District in California,
This was so great.
Kimberly and Kim. So it was the Kimberly and Kim show.
Mhm.
And it was great because, we all have a view of our world from our perspective in our local area. And I love listening to people from other states because their words are different. So
Mhm.
in California, their transition programs are also referred to as workability. And so the workability 1 and 2 courses that they teach throughout the state of California really seem like other types of things that we do where I'm from in New York, but they've got a different set of program and funding and support from a school level. So at Monrovia High School, they've got about 1,500 students, about 190 in special ed, and they have alternative programs that they feed into through their adult transition program. In the workability programs itself, they're focused on various different preparatory experiences for career and vocational assessment and education, on career awareness, just understanding all of the different types of options, as well as exploration and actual job skill development. And then they lead into their community partners and working with placements that they do out in the community. So here are some of their local business partners. And this is one of the things that we learn from so many different people.
Mm.
And that is to really look at your own backyard to see what types of industries are local for your students, and build your courses and your preparation to help keep that community going. And so folks that we've met through this experience with the webinar Wednesdays, come from different parts of the country, and what's going on in your backyard. And I remember Cheryl Hubbard George in South Carolina talking about how the local hospital was huge for the whole county, but it happened to be right near where their high school was. And so how many jobs they could prepare kids for working in that hospital, it just gave a real funnel for the students to the local opportunities. And same goes here. Really cool. So here are things that they were able to train students to do, from electrician to garbage management, mail carrier, dishwasher, sous chef. So
DJ. I love
yeah,
DJ.
a DJ, right? That's a fun thing, right? I bet all the kids probably wanted to go ahead and do that. And they showed how they would do some of this even with on-campus jobs. And you can see up here in the left, I think that looks like the DJs, right? They look like they've got some things to get going there. And a lot of different kinds of things, counting money, being able to work in a school-based store. And I love the way that they advertised for those jobs. So right there, they were showing kids, here's how you read a job ad. And do you qualify? Is it sound interesting to you? Right? So that they can kind of get the sense of when they get on out to the real world, quote unquote, what it might feel like as they're going along with things, as they're moving through their career prep. So
I'll
that,
tell you something right now, really quick, before we move on to March. So with this webinar, this was one of my absolute favorites because these two women were incredibly inspiring. They're educators just are always inspiring me based on how dedicated that they are. And these two women were so dedicated and worked so hard to make sure that all of their students' needs were met, to go above and beyond, to create these community partnerships, to, create all these fun experiences for these students. It was really incredible and very touching. And I remember it got me very choked up. So this is definitely a good one to go
absolutely.
check out.
Yep, the Kim and Kimberly show was really,
Yes,
it was moving. You're
it was a
absolutely
really
right
good
about
one.
that. But hold on to your tissues because we've got more. In March, we were visited by Jennifer Donnelly, the executive director from Bibb County Schools in Georgia, who's a good friend. And she brought two of her team members with her, Anel Hagerman, who's the Access Instructional Coach director, and Sharia Burney. She was a SPED teacher, and they shared with us a lot about what's going on in Bibb County. And first of all, I do want to share the size and the demographics of the district, so we can begin to sort of see this works in smaller districts and schools like Monrovia. And then here we are in Bibb, and we'll show you a couple of others because they're all different. And this is a large district, but look at the median household income. It's a real working class district. So a lot of diversity in terms of that. And they take it seriously. They wanted to create something that provided equity across that entire district. So their vision, their mission, their values underscored that focus on equity. And they really took a look at this, from the ground level up. And when we're talking about MTSS, we're talking about ground level up. We're going through all of the pieces of that pyramid and making sure that they've got tier one covered, and that they're providing those experiences across the border, and then being able to move on and up and be above that throughout the rest of their personalized learning. They talked about growing in 3D for their tier one standards. And that was where we really dove into the design of their IEPs and how they really try to pull that on into all of their materials that they put for students, the quality of those materials, and their documentation of it. They took a look at our curriculum, and what they liked about it was the adapted curriculum because it was so personalized. And it really, when you get to know our adapted curriculum, you can be doing one lesson with a group of students that are all at different levels, and you're giving them each activities to work on, let's say in this case, planting seeds. And the materials that they're being given are suited, they're adapted to their reading level. So the students never see that. The things that are student facing, they just don't know. They just know, well, my work is different than Bobby's work and Sally's work. And they go ahead and they do their task. And it's really, they're able to work collaboratively and share. And yet they weren't put at a level that's too high or a level that's too low for them. Super nice that the folks from Bibb recognize that. They did talk about some of their real live application and how they were trying to bring this on into things that they kind of institutionalized every year. So they had a cooking show because they really just love the whole concept of being able to not only cook, but to have somebody talk through the process, and a cookie decorating challenge, creating a holiday cookbook, creating a Thanksgiving luncheon, doing things like front office mail handling and taking on real jobs in the school itself. And so as we look at it, here are all the fun things that they were sharing with us. And I mean, the cookies look good enough to eat, and their cooking show looks branded and just so neat. And I think that it really gave the students a feeling of being part of the community in the school, because they were able to really create things that everybody in the school took part of, right? It wasn't just for their population.
Well, and I love that it was fun stuff, like it's learning that's fun, getting to make cookies and having this challenge and doing a cooking show and things like that. Like that is all, that's not boring stuff where you're just sitting in front of a computer. That's actually rolling up your sleeves and getting into the content and learning by doing fun things. So I love, love, love all of this.
Yeah, and making up a cooking show. I mean, it's really sweet. And you can see the kids as they were doing some other pieces. I remember and talking about how they use the kits and all the pieces that they were engaged with. So it was really, they, as you said, they really hands-on and they had a lot of fun with it as they were going through with it. Lots of fun. So that was our March. And in April, one of our nationally certified trainers, Amy Scudabore, from Salem, formerly actually from Salem High School in Virginia Beach. Now she's teaching at a local college, came on in and she shared with us some of the things that they were doing in Virginia Beach. Once again, here it gives you a sense of the size of the district. 82 campuses, over 62,000 students with over 11% in special needs. And they talked about how they went about, again, creating an equitable implementation that went across all of their secondary schools. So 25 secondary schools, 11 comprehensive schools. So they really did make sure it got on out there in an equitable way. And here's Amy. I'm going to let her play and tell you a little bit about what we're going to watch. Something like that.
Process for us is stations. We invited extra adults into the classroom to assist in the process so that each station was covered by an adult that could record the information on the work performance benchmark, either hard copy on a clipboard or using the electronic version with an iPad. So the students would complete an activity and then rotate to the next activity so that we could continue this process. We don't always do all of the activities in a day. Sometimes we'll do one or two, maybe three or four, depending on the adults and the time we have allowed. So that's the process that we use to make it a little more manageable. Students get to watch one another, take turns, and observe what's going on. We also use the peer buddy system so that one peer can support another if they need assistance. Hope you've enjoyed this.
So
this work performance benchmark.
hold on, go to the next one. Here's what it looks like when they were actually doing it.
Excellent.
So I'm gonna put the sound off on that because it's just going to be, it's a lot of moving of plates and so forth. But you can see one station is breakfast, the next one was lunch, the next one was dinner. I like the way the teacher's walking around. She's using one of our tools. We have some really great tools to capture data.
Yeah, the knowledge and performance based, as she's doing the work performance benchmarks, our performance assessment. So it's really cool that she's able to walk around and kind of assess all at once, you know, their performance and make sure that they're checking off all the skills and, you know, see how they're doing on that. So when is data collection ever not helpful, right?
Right. You know, because it's funny, the task analysis that we do, like setting a table takes 16 steps. And we want to check off, make sure you know. And I've had parents who've said, my kid knows how to set a table. I've had them doing it all along. I just don't let them bring the glassware over because they're going to break it. I'm like, they can't get a job at a restaurant if they can't touch glassware. You got to teach them every piece of it, right? And then you have other parents who would say, my student's going to, you know, set a table and do all of these tasks and whatever it is, changing the oil on a car. Don't you know that he's got special needs? And you're like, yeah, but watch, we've got the data on our performance checklist here, and we see that he can do it. So having the data that really brings it home, really makes it happen for us.
Well, a lot of times people assume that this particular student population can't do things that they can do, you know, and it's really kind of unfair to have people just generalize like, oh yeah, he could never do that. He could never, you know, be that or whatever. So it's nice to actually have the proof like, yes, they can.
They absolutely can. So, so that was really nice when Amy shared that with us. And as you can see, a couple of other examples that she shared really got the students working and collaborating with the general ed population as well. So school-based enterprises is something she was very into. And I think it really does kind of help you get a sense of what it looks like. And then she also talked a little bit about how to transfer those skills out to the community. I think this is another part that gets parents really excited. Because it's not just that we're going to, you know, keep them busy while they're in school and then all of a sudden they leave school and now the parents need to figure it out. But with these community types of partnerships and experiences, the students themselves can really have employable, marketable skills. So,
Mhm. Well, and
yeah.
that's the great thing is of practicing it in the classroom in a hands-on way that these students have a safe environment where it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay, and you're learning and everything. And then you can transfer those skills outside of the classroom. So it really is prepping you for this work in a place where you feel safe and comfortable and, it's okay to mess up from time to time. So
Well, we learn by mistakes, right?
we
We
learn by
learn.
mistakes. Yeah.
We would always try to avoid them, but honestly, that's where you learn the most.
Yeah.
All righty. So in May, this was really a fun one as well. This was from our friends in Lauderdale County Schools in Alabama, Brooke Gilmer and Adie Franks. And just to give you that sense of how big, this is a smaller district with about 8,000 students, about 1,200 of which are special needs, and 10 schools, so much smaller than Virginia Beach or Bibb. But take a look at the map. And they shared that map with us for a reason, because they're in that northwest corner of Alabama. You can't, if you go any further, you're no longer in Alabama, you're heading on out. And yet it's so wide. It's really, so to go from one end of the district to another takes quite a while. I forgot what she said specifically. I think it was like 4 or 5 hour trip from one end to the other. So you got to keep that in mind when you want to talk about, really providing equity throughout your district. You want to make sure that from one end to the other, the students all have the same sorts of opportunities. And they did. That's exactly what these gals were about. This actually is also a good look at some of those other soft skills, Michelle.
Mhm.
Right. So where we did some of our achieved life skills types of things. So this was just, even though we were talking about the actual restaurant industry and table service and things like that, they were also talking about manners. And they were talking about social skills and social emotional skills, because we've got a whole unit of achieved life skills on social emotional learning and all the different types of things that we know students really need these days. And so there's a lot of different types of things that we cover in those soft skills,
Yes.
from kindness and respect to, just following directions and rules and doing your best, waiting your turn. I think like everybody in the country should do the being a good sport lesson. I mean, there's a bunch of lessons we have in there that we should just like kind of make sure everybody how about this worldwide go through. I'm not going to leave it just to this country. Everybody needs to learn some of these good manners.
But like managing and understanding emotions, such an important thing for
Yeah.
kids to be able to understand, like, why am I feeling this way? How do I, calm myself down? How do I, why did this trigger me or whatever? Understanding that is just so important, especially nowadays.
Yeah, and it really became something that nobody realized that everybody in the school needed. I mean, we've always kind of worked on emotional regulation, especially with students who have emotional types of triggers or students on the spectrum and things like. We've always tried to work with them on that, and now we're realizing, oh no, it's really everybody. Everybody needs to understand what brings them up and what brings them down, and when they get frustrated and they just want to, shout out or throw something across the room or punch a wall, there are other alternatives. And how do we address that? So important. And here's other stuff that they got on into from our achieved life skills, like just integrating reading into doing things like reading labels or reading a store map and
Yes.
all sorts of pieces.
Well, and the nutrition labels are so important. There's this sandwich place and they have these chips that I really like. And I was always like, oh yeah, they're so low in calories and blah, blah, blah. Like these are so good. How can the calories be so low? And then I look and it's 2 servings per bag and the bags are like tiny. I'm like, what are you doing to me? So, having the knowledge and understanding a serving size and, everything that you're looking at, but also at the same time, you're integrating incorporating academics into this, through the reading and writing and math and things like that, understanding how to read these things that are so important in your day-to-day life is really, it's very, very valuable for these students.
Absolutely. Yep. And these are the types of things that we really even need to do with all students, not just those in our special needs programs, and integrating transition into math classes. So how counting money, how to measure things for cooking, all sorts of different types of things. So they really got into depth about some of these fun pieces and how to integrate it along. So that was our May. And in June, we got a different perspective. This is what I love about all of these webinars, because when you kind of look at them in this way, it's just so cool. Dr. Teresa Courtney is from ESC Region 4 in Texas. And so she took us at it and took an eye view of this from a state department of ed and a regional agency department, where we kind of get that perspective. So there are 553 of these regional agencies nationwide. Where I'm from in New York, they're called BOCES. In Pennsylvania, they're intermediate units. In Ohio, there are also ESCs. There are RISAs in Michigan and CISAs in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Nebraska's ESUs and
ESUs. So different names for them. They kind of sit between the state ed department and the school districts. And in Texas, the TEA have their, we've got TEKS, we've got our TEKS alignment, and we've got our career and technical education goals. And I know we had a couple of folks here from San Antonio and Houston, so you're probably all familiar with WBL for work-based learning. That's kind of like the workability in California, but see, different words, same sort of programs. And so Teresa was walking us through this and talked about the special ed vocational programs under HB5, which is a new graduation requirement. And she talked about the alignment of those CTE programs to various endorsements. And that was important and eye-opening to each of us, because you can see the ones that are highlighted are areas that we cover within our materials that we run. She shared that the CTE programs begin in middle school. And frankly, that also came about, I want to say it was like in 2018 or so, that the Perkins funding was reauthorized, and maybe it was 2017, or maybe off on my years, but they, through that funding, they then allow it to go down as low as to 5th grade programs, right? So you don't need to wait until high school to start transition and ITP kinds of programs. In Texas, it begins by the student's 14th birthday. And that work-based career learning can go all the way up to 11th to 12th grade. And so they were looking at these different types of experiences, the pre-employment transition services, and different types of things that you can do from middle, high school, and beyond. And then they started taking a look at the 5 key areas: career exploration, work-based learning, counseling on post-secondary opportunities, self-advocacy, and workplace readiness. And she did a little bit of an alignment back to the project discovery kits. And these were the ones that through the ESC that they were able to provide professional development for teachers who are in school districts that are part of her ESC through Region 4. And so it really kind of led to their whole approach on registered apprenticeships and helping the districts work within their community to find those kinds of supervised and on-the-job training experiences. And I loved this because it kind of gave you this to me visually helps me get the fact that you could have CTE, the pre-ETS, and CTE as different tiers that lead to work-based learning or apprenticeships that lead up to employment. So there was a path for every learner. They were able to go through it in lots of different ways. And so if you haven't reached out to your regional agency, that might be an interesting thing to do. We'd be happy to work with you on that because it's all a process, right? You've got to help create awareness first that here's what we're doing in our district, and here's what neighbors down the road in another district are doing, and how that regional agency could help out. And then you could certainly go back to this session that we had done in June to share a little bit more about how Texas approached it at Region 4. So kind of a great model, giving us a different perspective all over. So now we took July off, right? That was sun in the fun and rest and recuperate and
Yes.
restore after a tough spring. But
We all needed a break, I think.
we did. And we came in August with something totally different. I don't know if you remember way back to Monty Python days, they always had this one joke. They'd say, and now for something completely different. Well, that's what Chris Woods from Grand Rapids, Michigan, brought to us in August. He is so much fun. I highly recommend you go to his website, dailystem.com. And he's got lots of these slides and others on his site there from Chris Woods. You can also follow him on Twitter at dailystem. And it's just a really fun perspective, because he's a gen ed fella. And he said, you know, I may be a gen ed math teacher, but I teach all kids. And I've got all sorts of students. And I try and relate to them by letting them know I'm a nerd. But I laugh because my daughter is a math geek. We say it all the time. We say the geeks shall inherit the earth. And so we're always talking about how special it is to be a nerd, and it's fun, and we laugh at ourselves, and we enjoy just finding things everywhere to explore. And that's what Chris got into. We're going to share a secret. Chris had how many slides, Michelle?
Oh my gosh, I don't know, like 100, something crazy. He had the most energy out of anybody. I felt like I had run a marathon with him by the end of it, because he had all of these resources that are free to teachers. So I really do recommend that you guys go to his website. He has a podcast and everything, but all of these free STEM resources. And he just went through idea after idea after idea, and examples and resources and different websites that you can go to. I mean, if you're going to watch one, this is a really, really good one.
It was a lot of fun for all of us too.
Yeah.
And we were really thrilled because he was, talking about who does STEM. Everybody does STEM, all students, right? So we agree. And as part of our project discovery, we actually went through all of our different titles, because we've got well over 100 different careers that we teach about, right? And we group them into some special STEM buckets and toolkits. So toolkit 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see the different titles that are in there. So things that are going from carpentry to small engine repair and electricity, medical patient care, auto body repair, construction trades, greenhouse, and you can see all the elements that come in one of those kits. But we agree, STEM for special needs students, because there's a lot of STEM related jobs that need people to do all sorts of things. So it's really super special. It was a great way to kick off the new year, right, Michelle? It was just
Yes,
fun.
it absolutely was. And
Wow.
honestly, a lot of those STEM packages, all of our stuff that we have is differentiated into multiple levels. So even though it is STEM for special ed, there's stuff for, higher functioning students and stuff like that as well, which makes it really versatile, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, and we did a lot of different things, like we included our chief life skills classes on things like, I'm just gonna read from the bottom up almost, renting an apartment, consumer shopping, managing your money, using money, healthy meals on a budget, banking and checking. These are all from the life skills, right? But those are math types of lessons as well, and things that all students really need. I mean, I don't ever remember learning about maintaining my checkbook until it was too late, and my father had to sit me down when I was in college, and he said, okay, take notes. He goes, I can't believe you didn't learn this in school, but
They don't teach it. It's
he was
crazy.
great about that. So yeah, so we were really thrilled because the STEM just resonated with us and some of the things that we did. So that was August. And then in September, we were visited by Lynn Perry, who's also actually now another nationally certified trainer. And she was from the Department of Ed at LaGrange College. She had previous to that been at Roanoke City Schools in Alabama. She was in education, special ed for 27 years. And Lynn was so amazing in September that we had her back again in October. So I'm going to share a little bit of both of those because this is really where creativity just takes off. It just really does. And I loved her first bit of advice. Start with what you have. Don't, try and invent something and look for huge budgets and stuff. I mean, they started with where they found an old cart that was in the back of some, basement room that was an old science cart. And they went to the Ace hardware store, got some paint, and they painted it up and they came up with a logo and a look and a feel, and they created their coffee cart right from there. And they had the kids practice with it and do all sorts of prep work and learn, how they were going to go around the building. And all different kids did it, right? So they called it their Tiger Bean. And they really got it going to, this is like a real level enterprise. And so they had even had time to celebrate some of the success. And this is where I said you need to get your box of tissues out because, and I'll let we'll put the music rolling so we can just kind of talk over it. So their Tiger Bean initiative across the district, their Tiger Bean initiative across the district was, oops, sorry, I knew that was going to happen when I clicked that last button, was really focusing in on all levels of students. So they had the Mason Market was the second one to go because the younger students wanted to get in on the Tiger Bean. That's that part of it I got. So we're going to see lots of different kinds of kids all doing different types of career-related jobs. So from the youngest to our little older students, and they're working collaboratively. In this case, this is where they were making their mason jars for ready oatmeal. They were putting together. So you could just have oatmeal in a jar, fruits and everything. And they absorbed every part of it.
I think it's the little kids that get me. They're just so cute. I love watching it. And I love that, this is incorporated at such a young age.
Yep. Each of the teachers were able to pre-order their mason jars. And they were just borrowing examples. So cute. They're borrowing examples of what they had learned from their Tiger Bean. I love that little bit of recording of data there where they're highlighting the ones that they went to. These are the older students. These were the first ones that had gone on through. You can kind of see in the corner of that last clip, there was a certificate of appreciation. In her first webinar with us, she talked about how she went to the Chamber of Commerce. So they had the kids serving coffee to the Chamber of Commerce members in the community. And those are all the business leaders. Right? Those are all the future employers for these.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Really cool. And they go ahead and they make their rounds in school. The students would do a bit of, they would have a pre-order from the teachers again, and they would go ahead and they would deliver it to the teachers and workers. And you can tell when they get a tip.
Yeah, he was so happy about his tip. It's so cute.
It's real world.
A little spin.
One of the teachers had said something about, can't we do like our Google Pay or Apple Pay and just like kind of, yeah, sure. But if you saw that teacher, they're going to do it again. Making a change is so important, right? So we're going to deliver that. We're going to get the money for that coffee. And then the teacher was going to join it again. She was going to count down how much money you received and then how much you need to give back. So they made sure that they didn't skip over essential skills. And there's just a lot that goes into it. This is not a one-person thing. You get everybody involved, which is why I think it's important to share videos like this. if you want, this will be up on our webinar Wednesday, and you'll be able to watch it with your team. I'll show you how to get to that in just a moment. But I don't know, when I went back to pull all these things together and I saw it, I said, this is our culminating example here. We really had to just kind of share it and just say thank you to Lynn for sharing that with us. And that was our 2022 year in review. I don't know if anybody's got any questions, but we're happy to entertain any. We have a few more minutes left. Feel free to enter questions into the chat at any time. I will go ahead to make sure that we cover how to find these things on your own. And the first thing I will say is that our session in January is not on the first Wednesday of the month, because most of y'all are probably still off on vacation. So this is different. Please make note of it. January 11th will be the second Wednesday of 2023. And we're going to have Brooke Went from Medina County Career Center, another regional agency in Ohio. Brooke was one of our first presenters back in 2020 when we first started these, and she does what I call app smashing. She shows how she uses project discovery and achieve life skills with other things like Kahoots and Google Suite. So it's really cool. So that's January 11th, and we will be sending out the registration information probably next week sometime. Michelle, is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Yep. So we're going to get that out soon. And then if you want to find out more, you can go to educationassociates.com to our resources page. And if you scroll down just a bit, there's going to be Webinar Wednesdays. And on that Webinar Wednesday page, oops, let me get back to it because that should really click me into it. And it's not. Oh, okay. My little thing died. I used to have it so it was set up that I could click right on into it.
I'll send a link in the chat really
Yeah,
quick.
thanks. That'll be perfect. So on that page, Webinar Wednesdays, there are 22 recorded webinars. So we've just showed you 10 here from 2022. And if any of them are of interest, just go right back on in and you'll be able to see that. The other thing, while you're going to our website and checking things out that we recommend, on the bottom of just about every page, we've got this red box for a newsletter sign up. And in those newsletters, we kind of do a recap of what went on during the Webinar Wednesdays. And we talk about what people are doing in their districts and share that on out. So I encourage you to sign on up for that. We will not spam you. We will not sell your name. We will protect your personal information, but we will share with you amazing things from amazing people. There's Miss Hubbard George from Florence District 3. She had some cool things to share. And then we also have ways that you can download a preview packet if you wanted to share any information about our materials. What's cool about those packets is that they actually have things where you can see and hear our video modeling or visual schedules or other pieces. So you get to kind of see a little bit of some of the interactivity and the evidence-based practices. And if you dig deeper on our website, you'll also see places where we've helped you figure out how to tap on into things like our standard funding or ESSER funding, which is still yet to be spent. I was reading something the other day, only 47% of the ESSER funds have been spent to date. So be a squeaky wheel, raise your hand and say, hey, I saw this webinar and we can do all of this stuff to prepare our kids for jobs in our community. And we can use ESSER funds for it because you can. We've got an alignment to that as well. And then last, but certainly not least, if you'd like to learn more and ask your own questions, just let us know. We do these great Zoom overviews, and they're very personalized. It's all about you. I've had people who come on into these as a team. So it's part of your team meeting, a transition team meeting, or as you begin preparing and getting ready to create ITPs and what resources you might have or that you need, you can come on in and we will be glad to walk you through might be available for you with that.
Yes, and for the overview Zooms, you see that big blue button at the far right of the website. You just click on that and you can schedule one that way. It's really, really nice because you get that one-on-one where you can ask questions, you can stop at any time, and you kind of get somebody who can partner with you and brainstorm and help you figure out what the best options are for you and your students in your district. And like Joyce said, you can bring, a whole group of people, or you can have it be just yourself. They're about 30 minutes long, but it can be shorter if you need it to be, or longer if you need it to be. So, but it's really just the single best way to learn more, and get all your questions answered and get a consultation, basically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll leave this reminder up here for you all. I don't see any questions, but thank you so much for your comment there, Colleen. We appreciate that. If you've got any other questions, I will go ahead. I'll put Michelle's contact information up there. It's also in the chat. But thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. We know you're super busy. Hopefully you're inspired and you see some things that you can do. There's a very short survey when you hang up from this call. It only takes 2 seconds to answer it. One of the most important things on there, it says, do you have any ideas for future topics that you'd like to see? So please fill that out. It helps us. We've got things planned for 2023 already. We're excited. And we hope to see you back again. We love seeing our repeat people coming back, our groupies.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. It's great to see all your names. It's great to have you join us, and we've had a wonderful year this year, and I'm super excited for next year because I think it's going to be even better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wish you very, very happy holidays. Take time for yourself, put your feet up, relax, spend a day doing absolutely nothing. Find it, even if it's just an hour doing absolutely nothing. That's my goal too. I want to do that as well. But be with your families and have a really wonderful holidays and very, very happy, healthy new year. Here's to 2023.
Here's to 2023. See you guys next year.
All righty. Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. And stop and end.